Hey everybody, welcome back to the Preserves. Today I'm going to take you through a bunch of snares, what I have in my collection here, what ones I still use, which ones I don't use, the price ranges of them, and where you can possibly use these in an application. Most snares you can use in most applications. Some sit better in the mix than others. Some have a better high tuning and sound better in that high tuning, and some sound better in a low tuning, and some don't sound good in any of those tunings. They sound good in a low tuning, and some, when you buy them, don't sound good at all, and you have to do some work to get them to sound good. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and stick around, because this is going to be an interesting video and you're going to like it. Alright, we're going to blaze through some snares. So, this here is my pork pie patina brass 13 by 6.5 snare. The throw up is pretty good on it. I run an ambassador coated on the top, and on the bottom I run an ambassador snare side. This snare sounds good in a low or mid tuning, and if you crank it down like I have here with extra washers and you crank it down, you can get it to sound really good in a high tuning as well. Let's move on. Cheapest snare I own. Oh, by the way, that snare runs about $500. It's a pork pie brass patina snare. This is the cheapest snare I own. This is a Griffin. It's made in China. If you replace this strainer, you're better off. I put new heads on it right when it came. It's got an ambassador high energy Aquarian on the top, and on the bottom it has an ambassador snare side, or Aquarian snare side. That is a popular snare shell, and it's alright. My most expensive snare, my custom snare. I previewed this one in another video. It has a cast hoop on the bottom, triple flange on the top. It has an indie snare with a pure sound 24 strand strainer, and it has an Aquarian Studio X on the top and a Remo snare side ambassador on the bottom. This sounds good in a low or a mid tuning, and it's not in my top 5, if I'm being honest. My most expensive snare is not in my top 5. Or, excuse me, it sounds good in a high or a mid tuning, not a low tuning. So, yeah. It's a great snare. But it's not in my top 5. Let's get on to the Tama Metalworks. I purchased this snare off of eBay for $60 or $65 a few years back, and it was completely destroyed. I took everything off of it, all the hardware. I bought a used 13-inch snare bed hoop for the bottom because it was completely rusted and pitted and it was not worth saving. I reused the top one and I cleaned up all the hardware on it. I sanded down the shell and I repainted it in this brass color. It is a decent snare. It sounds good in all tunings, high, mid, and low. It is an 8-lug snare. I have an Aquarian Performance 2 on the top, and on the bottom I have a classic clear snare side. A snare that sounds good directly from the factory is always nice when it comes with a drum kit. I have not had good luck with snares that come with a production kit, but this Premier XPK exclusive, I haven't even changed the snare head on it. It is still, and I've had this kit for 10 years. I probably should change the top. I still play this snare quite a bit, actually. It's a great, I just put tape on the top. It's a 8-inch or 8-lug snare, and the throw up is actually pretty good for a snare. that comes directly from a company. It sounds great. This snare sounds good in all tunings, high, mid, and low. And it is a great snare. I recommend purchasing one of those snares. Alright, let's go directly into this top snare is my Pearl Piccolo steel snare. I have an Evans G2 on the top, and I have an Evans Level 360 snare side on the bottom. This snare is amazing for the amount of money that it costs you. It has a very smooth throw off, and you can pick these up off of eBay from anywhere from $100 to $160, depending on where you get it or what time if you can find one. It is a great snare, in my opinion. Moving on, my Ludwig Birch. My Ludwig Birch 3x13 8-lug piccolo snare. I don't use this snare very much. The throw off is amazing on it. It's very smooth. I just don't use it very much. It still has the original Ludwig top and Ludwig snare side head on it. And did I switch out? No, it still has the original made in England strainer on it as well. So, or made in the U.S. What does that say? And I can't even read that with my glasses on. Oh, made in Taiwan. Made in Taiwan strainer. So that was a oopsie there. Made in Taiwan strainer. I don't really like the sound of this snare. I'm sure if I put some extra washers on it and I crank this sucker down into a high tuning, it would sound good and very crack, have a hard crack to it. But I just, I have a couple of other snares that I prefer over that one. Moving on, we'll go to my 12-inch snares. This is my Pearl Modern Utility Snare Drum. It is a 12 by 6.5. It is a steel snare, it's a steel snare drum. It is made in China. It has a decent throw off for what you pay. I think I paid $250 for this snare. And I got this from Sweetwater. And then I put a Aquarian texture coated on the top when it got here. And it still has the original snare side pearl drum head on it. It's a great snare. It sounds good in the low or mid tuning, but I throw a muffle ring on it or else the overtones piss me off. So, but if you throw a muffle ring on it, it sounds, oops, stop hitting the guitar. But it sounds good in those tunings with a muffle ring. This is a steel snare drum made by Sonar. It came with my Martini kit. Maybe you can see it in the very back corner over there. It's a 3-piece Martini kit, or 4-piece Martini kit. It's very small. It's made for small applications. I put an Aquarian Response 2 on the top, and it is a 6-lug drum with a throw off that's kind of clunky, but it's pretty decent for what it is. Now, I'm going to turn that guitar so I quit hitting it. There we go. One of my favorites. Top 2 probably. This is a pork pie little squealer. 12-inch by 5. It has 8 lugs, and I crank this sucker down. I put extra washers on it, and I crank it down, but it does sound good in all tunings. The throw off on this is actually really smooth for the amount of money that you pay for one of these. I think I paid $200 for it. It's a great little drum. I've always had one of these on my kit. Matter of fact, my first kit that I ever purchased about 15 years ago, this was my first upgrade to that kit. And so, well, not this exact drum, but the one that I had before this I ended up selling that kit, and when I moved from Astoria, Oregon to Eugene, and I upgraded my kit to a FS PDP kit. That is a very awesome drum. Next, we are moving on to a Tama Rockstar. This belongs to that kit right there in front, if you can see it. This is a decent snare. It is a 14 by 6, and it's an alright snare. It's not my favorite. I also put extra washers on this and crank it down. I do not like this in a low or a mid tuning, and usually I put a moon gel or something on this drum to make it sound better. But it's a decent snare, and it's not bad for what it is. My least favorite snare. It comes off of this kit that you're seeing set up behind me right here, this PDP Concept Maple. It has a walnut veneer on the top, and this kit is amazing other than this snare. I've tried multiple snare heads on this, multiple tunings. I've put extra washers. I just do not like this snare. I just don't like it. I'm not saying it's a bad snare. Somebody out there probably likes the sound of these snares, but I'm not a fan. Let's get into my last two snares. Number 3 in my favorite lineup. This is a Ludwig Superphonic. This is an old school snare. It has a horrible throw off. I have upgraded the snare head, the batter head, to a Aquarian Deep Vintage 2, and it is amazing. The bottom has Pure Sound strainer on it with the original plastic stupid ribbons to hold the snare in place. It has a muffle on the inside that you can tune to whatever you want. It's a great snare for what it is. It sounds good in every tuning. It's a alright snare. It's also got, what is it? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 lugs. 10 lug snare, and on the bottom it has an Aquarian Classic Clear on the bottom. And this is probably my number 3 drum. It sounds amazing as well. I love this snare almost as much as I love my pork pie, but not quite. My favorite snare drum as of right now. This is my Ludwig Black Galaxy Acrylite. If you guys ever want a snare drum that sounds amazing in all tunings, in all settings, in any style of music, I recommend a Ludwig Acrylite. I picked this drum up probably 2 years ago, and I have never owned one prior to that. This is a 10 lug. The throw off leaves a lot to be desired. I will probably upgrade that. It is the original. It has a black-white badge on it. So maybe late 80s. I don't remember when they switched to the black and white badge. I'm assuming it was in the 80s or 90s. But this drum is my favorite drum right now. I did not ever think that I would like a 14-inch drum snare, because I never really liked any of the ones that came with any of my kits that I purchased in the past. But this one was one that I have very fond of. This is probably my number one snare right now. This thing sounds amazing in every tuning. I haven't done squat to this, and I love it. I haven't even changed the head out on this. It has a Weather Master on the top, and it's an amazing drum. But I've owned quite a few kits in my life. My first one that I owned was that when PDP very first came out, I purchased their very first kit that they released. It was a wine red wrap. I don't even think it was an FS series yet. I think it was before that. Before they released the FS and the X or whatever, XS or all those other lines before they got even into the concept, which is a fairly recent kit. I've had this kit for 6 years now. Yeah, probably 6. That one back there in the back I've had for 11. And I've had that one for eternity. And I've had that Sonar Maple for about 5 years. And then I've also owned a it was a Tama Imperial Star, I believe it was. I bought that from a friend in Eugene, Oregon, and I didn't like it. The toms on it were cannons. They were like freaking massive. I did not like that kit. I prefer kits that have, you know, the fast toms on them. And I can show you actually. I've owned quite a few kits in my life, and I own quite a few kits now. I have kits that aren't even out here. But let me get these really quick. Might be able to stack up some stuff here. Son of a... Well, that was interesting. Alright, there's that. We're just gonna have to have this on the outside right now. Sorry about the fidgeting. This is gonna be some horrible sound effect. That'll work. Alright, so this is off of that Premier XPK kit, and this is off of the Concept. They are both the same diameter, 8-inch drum. This is a fast tom, and this is, I can't remember what they call this. It's not quite a fast tom. And then this is off of an old kit that I used to have. It was a Pearl Crystal Beat, and I've sold the other drums from this, except for the, this is a 6-inch tom, and I have the 8, and I also have the 10 still. And I like to set up these because these are concert tom style drums. I like those on occasion for toms. And they got a better sound to them. It's kind of like a, what are they? You know, the D drum decabonds, or the other, what are they called? The roto, no, not roto toms, but the, man, if you're a drummer, you know what I'm talking about. They're like octobons. There they are, octobon. They're kind of like that style, but I have a whole set of the D drum decabonds. They're back in that back corner over there. I actually just took them down not too long ago, probably about 4 months ago, when I had that tall kit set up. I had it set up in the other side of this room over here. It's a little bit bigger, and I had that like a massive kit set up, and nobody needs that big of a kit unless you are Terry Bozzio or Mike Portnoy or somebody like that is a super touring musician and in a progressive band of some style, and you have different tunings for your drums and different notes for each drum. You don't need that size of a kit. But anyway, if you guys like this video, go ahead and smash that like button. Leave a comment of what snare you like the most out of this. I know I ran through them really quick. Also, comment if you like the sound on this. I picked up a lavalier mic set here, and I just couldn't get the audio quality any good. I'm gonna probably purchase a new camera too, because I'm using a cheap camcorder, and hopefully that'll help with the video quality as well. The video quality is not horrible, but it's not great. Anyway, smash that like button. Leave me a comment which snare you like the best. Peace. Peace.